Today, we are breaking down one of the most foundational ideas in Christianity, the gospel. And we're going to do it using a 2,000-year-old letter as our guide. Now, this wasn't just any letter. It was sent to a small community right in the heart of the Roman Empire, a place that knew all about power, about kings, and about victory.
All right, let's just jump right in with a statement that really doesn't pull any punches. It's a pretty stark claim for sure, but understanding this one idea is absolutely key to unlocking the entire message that comes next.
Now, it might seem a little weird, but to really get why this message is called the good news, the letter to the Romans says we first have to face some bad news. It's kind of like going to the doctor. If you don't get a clear diagnosis, the cure they offer isn't going to make much sense. So the text gets us to do this really interesting thought experiment. Just imagine for a second you are suddenly given these insane superpowers. You're beyond the reach of any government, any law. When all those external rules just disappear, what does your internal compass point to? Is it serving other people, or is it serving yourself? And to push that idea even further, what if you could be totally invisible? No consequences, no accountability for anything you do. The argument here is that when you strip all of that away, it's often our deepest, rawest desires that grab the steering wheel, not always our noblest intentions.
And this leads to a really powerful twist in the argument. What we so often call freedom, the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want, can actually become its own kind of prison. We think we're the ones in charge, but this letter suggests that actually we just end up enslaved to our own appetites.
So Paul, the guy who wrote this letter, he then gives this really blunt diagnosis of where all that unchecked self-interest leads. I mean, look at this list. Envy, strife, arrogance, deceit. He's arguing that these aren't just little isolated flaws. No, they're all symptoms of a much deeper condition. This is what those uncontrollable superpowers look like when our own desires become king. Okay, so if that's the diagnosis of the problem, what's the big deal? What are the actual stakes? Well, the text is incredibly clear about the ultimate consequence, the final payout for a life that's governed by this law of self-interest. And it puts it about as starkly as you can. The wages of sin is death. This is framed as the natural, inevitable end of that road of self-rule, a destination that the letter says leads only to ruin and misery. It's a really bleak and sobering thought. But, and this is a huge but, right here, at what seems like the lowest possible point, the entire message does a complete 180. After laying out all the bad news, the diagnosis, and the consequences, the letter shifts from this really grim assessment to a stunning, triumphant announcement. Now, to get this big turn, we have to look at what the word gospel actually meant back then. See, in the first century Roman world, a euangelion wasn't just any old good news. It was a very specific thing. It was a public announcement from a herald that a huge battle had been won and a new king was taking the throne. It was a declaration that the old way of doing things was over. And that right there is exactly how this letter presents the resurrection of Jesus. It's not just a hopeful story, it's presented as that euangelion, the official victory proclamation. It's the announcement that the old tyrants, sin and death, have been totally defeated and thrown off the throne. You can almost hear the confidence in this quote. It's like a defiant taunt aimed at humanity's oldest and most feared enemy, basically declaring that its power has been shattered for good. And the victory isn't just over death. The text claims that all those other powers that are always demanding our loyalty, things like ambition, money, power, you name it, they've all been disarmed and dethroned by this new king. Okay, so a new king has won the decisive victory. So what? What does that actually mean for us? Well, the letter argues that this new reality completely redefines what it even means to be free. The way Paul lays it out is that everybody is living under the authority of something. You're either ruled by the law of sin and death, which is basically your own self-interest that leads to ruin, or you can choose to live under the law of the spirit of life, which is the rule of this new king. So here's the real kicker. This isn't just about believing a list of historical facts. It's presented as a conscious transfer of power, a deliberate choice to switch your allegiance from yourself as the master of your life to Christ as master. And this new king, he issues a new primary command, a new law that basically defines what it means to be a citizen of his kingdom.
The main principle is no longer self-interest or self-preservation, but this radical, self-giving love that's supposed to look just like his.
So really, this whole deep argument from this ancient letter to the Romans, it all boils down to a choice of citizenship. And it leaves us with this one final, very practical question. If this victory proclamation is true, if a new and better king really is on the throne, what does it actually look like to live as a citizen of his kingdom right here, right now?